what was that about?
Yeah.
Like that one where you show up late for a test, makes you wonder if your subconscious is trying to tell you something.
Right. It's wild how many cultures believe that dreams are how our subconscious or even something bigger tries to get through to us.
Totally. And for this deep dive, we're going deep into this Spanish language podcast,
Right.
all about prophetic dreams.
Okay.
It's like getting a direct line to the divine through dreams.
Oh, wow.
They go through these 7 big dream themes using, get this, biblical stories to make sense of it all. We're talking angels, hearing voices, animals, the whole 9 yards.
Huh. It's really interesting how those themes just keep popping up across cultures, across history. Makes you think there's something universal about them.
Totally. So first up, let's talk angels. The podcast says, dreaming of angels. It might be more than just wishful thinking. You know what I mean? Like they could be there to comfort you, guide you, even warn you about something.
Right. And it's like, if you think about those old biblical stories like Jacob's ladder with the angels going up and down, it's all about this connection between heaven and earth right there in the dream.
Oh.
Or Joseph. Getting those angelic messages totally changed his life, his destiny. So yeah, dreams can be powerful stuff.
Seriously. What if we ignore those dreams, thinking they're just dreams, when actually they're trying to point us in the right direction?
I know.
And then the podcast talks about hearing a voice in your dream, like that could be the big guy himself trying to tell you something.
Yeah.
So does this mean every voice in my dream means something?
Well, maybe not every voice, but it's definitely worth paying attention to if you hear the same message over and over, or if a voice just feels different, stronger somehow. Remember Samuel, heard God calling his name in a dream. That's how he became a prophet. It wasn't just some random voice. It was like his life's purpose.
Wow. That's powerful. What if those dreams we keep having, the ones we try to forget, what if they're clues to our own purpose?
Right. It makes you think. Okay, so moving on from angels and voices, this podcast, they also get into what animals in dreams might mean. They talk about lions, sheep, snakes even.
I mean, certain animals, they just make you feel a certain way, Like lions, you think strength, courage, right? Sheep, maybe a bit more like following the crowd. And the snakes.
Yeah, snakes are tricky. They could mean danger or temptation, but they could also mean like healing, or even some big transformation. It's really all about the whole dream and what the animal means to you.
So it's not as easy as looking it up in a dream dictionary.
Nope, not at all. You got to look at the whole picture, connect it to your own life.
Makes sense. Like in those books, a symbol can mean a bunch of different things depending on, what's going on.
Exactly. Like remember Pharaoh's dream in the Bible with the healthy cows and the sick cows?
Oh, yeah.
He had no idea what it meant.
And that's where Joseph swoops in.
Exactly. Not only saves Egypt, but also shows us how crucial it is to understand those symbolic messages,
It's like, are we missing out on some seriously deep meanings in our dreams just because we don't know how to interpret them?
Maybe. And speaking of deep, they also talk about rainbows in this podcast.
From animals to rainbows. This deep dive is something else. So what about rainbows? What do they say about those?
Well, they're saying rainbows in your dream. Think hope, think promises, especially when you're going through something tough. Remember Noah's Ark?
Of course.
Devastating flood, right. And then, boom, rainbow. God's promise to never do that again.
It's funny how rainbows have become like this universal symbol of hope.
Right. And in dreams, it could mean that even when things are rough, there's always light at the end of the tunnel.
Like a little pat on the back from the universe. Hang in there. You got this.
Exactly. Now, let's get a little less visual. This podcast also spends some time on numbers in dreams.
Numbers? Oh, yeah, this is where it gets really interesting. I've always been into numerology and all that. What do they say about numbers?
Well, they seem pretty focused on the number 7, which, let's be honest, is a pretty big deal in a lot of spiritual traditions. 7 days of creation, 7 deadly sins, 7 sacraments.
It's everywhere.
Right. And they bring up Pharaoh's dream again, the one with the cows, to show how numbers can represent cycles, things ending and beginning, even warnings like, hey, pay attention.
Right, right. And don't forget Nebuchadnezzar's dream. They told him his kingdom would be A-okay after 7 times passed. 7, man.
Oh.
Always something with the 7.
It's like this whole idea of testing, transformation, and then finally getting back to where you're supposed to be.
Wow. Okay, so 7 is officially even more significant than I thought. Now I'm wondering about all the other numbers in our dreams. What if they're trying to tell us something too?
Good question, right? Maybe we should break out those dream journals. But hey, before we get ahead of ourselves, this podcast, they don't stop there. They also talk about mentor figures showing up in dreams.
Mentor figures in dreams. I like that. I'm always looking for guidance in my waking life and I guess in my dreams too.
It's more common than you might think. And this podcast, they think it means we're craving guidance, support, some kind of wisdom to help us on our way, you know? These mentor figures, they could be anyone, spiritual teachers, wise old folks, even like characters from those movies you love.
So it's not about the specific person, but what they represent, like their energy.
Exactly. Like dreaming of a wise old woman, maybe it means you need to tap into your intuition. Or dreaming of I don't know, a spiritual guru, maybe it means you're craving knowledge.
Like our subconscious is waving his hand saying, hey, you've got all these resources, use them.
Exactly. And the Bible, it's got some great examples of this. Joseph, right? His dreams weren't just random images. They were full of symbolism, guiding him to his destiny. And Gideon, totally ordinary guy until, bam, an angel appears in his dream, tells him he's going to save Israel.
Life-changing dream. It makes you wonder what kind of potential we all have hidden inside, just waiting for the right dream to unlock it.
Right. And it shows how powerful dreams can be, not just to reveal our potential, but also to connect us to like a higher source, you know, to help us actually reach that potential. It really is amazing. And, you know, speaking of potential, this podcast, they get into this really interesting type of dream they call intercessory dreams. Basically, dreams that tell you to pray for someone.
Intercessory dreams. Okay, I've never heard that term before, but I kind of get it. It's like you're getting a message to pray for someone specific.
Yeah, exactly. Like your dreams are tapping into something bigger than you, something that can help other people, even if you don't totally get how.
So you might dream about someone who's going through a hard time, even if you had no idea, and then suddenly you feel like you have to pray for them.
Yeah, like that. They use the example of Job in the Bible. You know, Job, the guy who went through all that awful stuff. God tells him to pray for his friends, and it's actually through Job's prayers that they find peace and forgiveness.
It's like they say, prayer isn't just about you and what you need. It's about connecting with something bigger and helping other people through that connection.
Exactly. It's like our dreams could be calling us to help, you know, to be more compassionate, to be part of something that heals the world.
Wow. So those dreams where you just feel this urge to pray for someone, maybe they're not so random after all.
Right. Okay, so we've gone through a lot of dream themes, right? Angels, voices, animals, rainbows, numbers, mentors, even these intercessory dreams. But this podcast, they don't just talk about the good stuff. They also talk about how sometimes it feels impossible to hear God, even in your dreams.
It's like when you try so hard to remember a dream, it just slips further away. Why do you think that happens?
Well, they have a few ideas about that. One thing they talk about is how important it is to really connect with God. And I don't just mean going through the motions of praying. I mean really building a relationship with God, you know, one that's based on trust and honesty and being open to listening.
So it's like you have to make that connection strong, not just expect it to be there when you need something.
Right, exactly. You have to put in the effort, spend time praying, thinking about your life, connecting to something bigger than yourself.
Which, let's be honest, is easier said than done. Life gets busy, you know.
Tell me about it. And that actually leads into their next point, which is all about creating the right environment for hearing God. Like minimizing distractions, especially before you go to sleep.
So no more scrolling through your phone in bed.
Exactly. It's about finding that quiet space inside yourself where you're more open to those little nudges from, you know, whoever or whatever is trying to get your attention.
Yeah, if your mind is going a mile a minute about your to-do list, it's no wonder you can't hear anything else.
Exactly. And here's another thing they talk about, and I think this is important. They say you have to approach your dreams with faith and expectation. If you don't believe God can speak to you, then you're probably going to miss it when he does.
It's like they say, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. If you don't believe it's possible, it won't be.
Exactly. And then the last thing they talk about is this idea of spiritual purity. They say that sin, you know, the things we do that separate us from God, that can make it really hard to hear him clearly.
Like trying to talk to someone while you're also pushing them away. You're sending mixed messages, right?
It's about aligning yourself, your actions, and your intentions with that desire to connect with God.
This is all so interesting. We've gone through so many different types of dreams, and we've talked about the things that can block us from hearing God's message. But how do we actually apply all of this to our lives? It feels like we've got all these puzzle pieces, but we're not sure how they fit together.
That's a great question. And that's where the real work begins.
Yeah, like we've got the map, but we're lost in the woods or
Okay,
something.
the compass is right there inside you. That's what this podcast is saying anyway.
Okay.
It's all about trusting your gut, using your own judgment, and remembering you want to connect with something bigger. And that looks different for everyone. What makes sense to me in a dream might not make sense to you, you know?
So we're all speaking different dream languages.
Kind of, yeah. We've all got our own dictionary. The same symbol could mean totally different things to you and me, depending on, I don't know, our experiences, what we believe, even just how we're feeling that day.
So no more dream dictionaries. Got it. It's all about looking inside, not outside.
Exactly. Pay attention to those dreams that keep coming back, the ones that feel important. Think about what they could mean in your life right now, what they're trying to tell you.
It makes you think, what if those dreams that fade away as you're waking up, what if those are important too? We just don't remember them enough to even try and understand them.
Totally. That's why some people keep dream journals, Even if you only remember a little bit, just write it down. You might start to see patterns, recurring symbols. You might even remember feelings you had during the dream that you've forgotten about.
I've heard of those dream journals. Have you ever kept one?
Yeah. It's actually really cool how just the act of writing it down can make a dream clearer. It's like it unlocks something.
It's like you're building a bridge between the you that's awake and the you that's dreaming.
Exactly. The more you pay attention to your dreams, the easier it gets. It's just like learning a new language.
At first, it's all gibberish, but the more you practice, the more you start to understand.
Exactly. Just be patient with yourself. Be open to being surprised, Have fun with it.
So you're saying it's okay if I'm not an expert dream interpreter by tomorrow?
Of course. Just enjoy the ride. Trust your gut. Be open to the possibility that your dreams are trying to tell you something really important.
I love that. Well, this has been incredible.
Mm.
Really makes you think, right? So we've explored all these different prophetic dreams. We've talked about the things that might block us from hearing the message. But as we wrap up here, is there like one big thing you'd want our listeners to take away from all of this?
One big thing. How about this? What if the most important messages we get aren't the ones we hear in our everyday lives, but the ones that come to us when we're asleep? What if those crazy dreams we have, the images, the voices, what if those are trying to tell us something really profound about ourselves, about what we're meant to do, about how we're connected to something bigger than ourselves?
That's a really powerful thought to end on.
Right.
It's like we're being challenged to really pay attention to our dreams, to explore our own minds, to treat them as something sacred.
Yeah. So, hey, listeners, keep a dream journal. Think about your dreams, see what they could mean. You might be surprised by what you find.
So well said. And on that note, sweet dreams, everyone.